فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So inshallah we continue by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the fiqh of salah. And we had discussed the beginning takbir and then the saying of Allahu Akbar, that is takbir, and the raf' al-yadayn, that is the raising of the hands, and then folding the hands and where to fold the hands, and then what do you say, the dua al-istiftah, the opening dua, and then seeking refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ta'awwad, yani to say a'udhu billahi sami'ul alim minash shaitan al-rajim, and then to say bismillah ar-rahman ar-rahim. And now we get to Surah Al-Fatiha. Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi in al-Umdah, he continues, he says after that one should recite Al-Fatiha, except for the follower, for the recitation of the Imam is his recitation, and this is mustahab to recite in the pause between the recitation of the Imam or in the silent prayers, and we'll discuss this inshallah in detail. When we talk about reciting Surah Al-Fatiha in the Salah, there is ijma' of the Ummah that you do recite it. So nobody says don't recite Al-Fatiha. And the majority of the ulama, they take this to be a rukn from the arkan of Salah, that you must recite Surah Al-Fatiha in your Salah. That this is fard, this is the rukn. When we look at the different madhahib, and here we don't want to make the dars just from one madhab or one idea. I want to introduce all of them to you, understand the different aqwal, look at the different proofs, because we are one ummah. Today we have an extreme in the ummah. We have one extreme that thinks there's no such thing as a madhab, and to follow the madhab is a shirk, and this, na'udhu billah, this is wrong as well. You look at these madhahib, they've been there from the time of the salaf. Those ulama of the earlier ulama, like Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi'i and Ahmad and others, after them Al-Awza'i and others, they established usul. But then you forget what was their maqsad, what was their purpose. Their purpose was to get to the sunnah. Madhab means a path. A path. But where does it lead to? It leads to knowing the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you make the path your maqsad, you've gone astray. And if you throw the path away altogether, you've gone astray as well. So the other extreme we have is they make the madhab into a religion. They think Hanafi is a religion and Shafi'i is a religion. Meaning the Hanafi can't pray behind the Shafi'i and the Maliki can't pray behind the Hanbali. And if you are Shafi'i, then I can't sit in your dars. And if you are, subhanallah. All of these a'imma, they were united. They had one aqidah, they had one way. Maybe they had difference in usul, on understanding fiqh, but that doesn't mean they weren't all going for the same goal. And when they were corrected, even by their own students, like Abu Hanifa, the great scholar, when he was corrected by Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani or al-Qadi Abū Yūsuf, he would accept their correction even though they were his students. So it's not like he took some opinions and he said, this is it, this is the whole religion, and my opinion is the religion, and any other opinion should be rejected. No. And today what we see is somebody will take a madhab and they will defend every single word in it, no matter what, even if it's wrong. Subhanallah. This is not a religion. This is not qala Allah wa qala Rasul. This is the ijtihad of ulama. Don't reject it and don't make it into qala Allah wa qala Rasul. If the madhab is correct with the dalil, follow it. If the dalil is stronger, the way of every one of the a'imma is, if the dalil is stronger, you take the dalil. For ashal hadith madhabi. You find this from not just Abu Hanifa and Malik, and from all of the a'imma. In fact, one of the beautiful aqwal of Imam Abu Hanifa, he said, إذا جاء الحديث من النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام على رأسي وعين. إذا جاء الخبر من الصحابي على رأسي والعين. وَإِذَا جَاءَ الْقَوْلُ مِنَ التَّابِعِينَ فَهُمْ رِجَالٌ وَنَحْنُ رِجَالٌ. Subhanallah. Beautiful. He said that if a hadith comes from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on my head and eyes I accept it. If you tell me a hadith, a sahih hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I accept it. This is Abu Hanifa telling us. He says, if you bring me a khabar, a news, or a hadith from a sahabi, an authentic, I accept it on my head and eyes. But if you bring me a saying of a tabi'i, then they are men and we are men. The aqwal are accepted and rejected. But this manhaj of Abu Hanifa has been left today. This manhaj of Imam Malik saying that everybody's qawl is accepted and rejected except ashab hadil qabr, yani the man who's in this qabr, yani Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today they left it. Today if Imam Malik took a qawl, or even if he didn't take it, if it was ascribed to him, people will defend it even if it goes against all the sahih hadith. And this is wrong. This is not the way of those a'imma. So here we will discuss from the different books as well. When we look at the Hanabila, the Hanbali madhab, according to them, Surah Al-Fatiha is a rukn from the arkan of salah. There are 14 arkan. It is one of the arkan. If you leave it intentionally, your salah is batil. If you leave it unintentionally and you realize it, your salah is batil. You have to repeat the rukn and make sujood sahw. And we'll discuss that in the bab of sujood sahw. But according to the Hanabila, as mentioned in Umdah, as we studied here, and Zad al-Mustaqni' and al-Iqna' and al-Mughni, and all of the books of the Hanabila, it is a rukn from the arkan without khilaf. If we look at the Shawafi', we look across the works of al-Nawawi or other well-known Shafi'i ulama, like in al-Majmu' or the works of al-Shafi'i himself, we find it to be a rukn from the arkan of salah. It is a pillar from the pillars of salah that you must never leave. When we look at the Malikiyah, we find it to be from the Risala of Qadi Ibn Abi Zayd and Mukhtasar al-Khalil to be a rukn from the arkan. The Ahnaf, on the other hand, they consider it for the individual to be wajib. Not from the arkan, but from the wajibat, still obligatory. As we find in Mukhtasar al-Quduri and al-Hidayah and the books of the Ahnaf. That it is still wajib for an individual when he's making salah, or the imam when he's making salah, for him to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Whether it's a rukn or wajib, khilaf, but you should still do it, you must. Now, with regards to the one praying behind the imam. So we talked about an individual or an imam, across the board, he should recite Al-Fatiha. According to the three madhab, it's rukn. According to the Ahnaf, it's wajib, still must do it. Tayyib. But what about the one who's praying behind the imam? When you're praying behind the imam, there are different opinions. The first opinion is it is obligatory. Yani it's fard. For both the imam and the followers to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. In every rak'ah, whether it's loud or silent. This is the first opinion. So what does that mean? When we talk about Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, or Taraweeh, or Jum'ah, anytime you're behind the imam, whether the imam recites out loud or silently, you still must recite Surah Al-Fatiha behind the imam. And this is the opinion of the Shawafi'. This is the well-known mu'tamid of the Shafi'i madhab, and it is based on many sahih ahadith. And this is the opinion of many of the Hanabila as well. And this is the opinion of Imam al-Bukhari, who wrote an entire book on this issue. A risala on this issue of Fatiha khalf al-Imam. Imam al-Bukhari himself. The dalil for this is the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, there is no salah for the one who does not recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And this is mentioned in many different books, many different asanid with different wordings even. Like al-Kitab or Fatih al-Kitab. So it shows that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned this more than once. And when we look at the references, you find it in books like Sahih al-Bukhari and in many of the well-known books of hadith. So there is no doubt to the authenticity of the hadith that this is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We even find a hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made salah and it was fajr, it was a loud salah. And he turned to the Sahaba and he asked them, do you recite behind me? They said yes. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that don't do this except al-Fatiha or al-Kitab. So here, even in the loud salah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told the Sahaba radiallahu anhum to recite behind him al-Fatiha. So this is one opinion, and Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani has mentioned this in Fath al-Bari. He says it has been proven with the permission has been given to the one praying behind the Imam to recite al-Fatiha without exceptions. A supporting hadith for this is that Ubadah radiallahu anhu, he mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he recited in al-Fajr, as I mentioned in the hadith already, and he asked the Sahaba, and again this is a Sahih hadith. So we look at all these ahadith, they point towards reciting al-Fatiha even behind the Imam. The second opinion is the individual praying alone, he recites al-Fatiha. The Imam recites. But when you're praying behind the Imam, whether it's a loud salah or a silent salah, there is no recitation. So in this opinion, if you're praying behind the Imam, whether the Imam is reciting out loud, like Fajr, Maghrib and Isha, or Taraweeh or Jum'ah, or it's a silent salah, like Dhuhr and Asr, you do not recite anything behind the Imam. And this is the opinion of the Ahnaf, of the Hanafi madhab, and is the Mu'tamid, as mentioned, Mukhtasar al-Quduri and al-Hidayah. And the major dalil that we see for this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordains, that when the Qur'an is being recited, you must listen. Now, like Ibn Kathir in his tafsir, he objects to this use to say that this is general, am, not just for salah. And he mentions that this is when the Qur'an is being recited. So how can you use that as a dalil for Dhuhr and Asr? Here you're supposed to listen to the Qur'an. So how do you listen in Dhuhr and Asr? You cannot. And that's why many of the major Ahnaf, scholars of the Hanafi madhahib, such as Abu al-Hayy al-Laknawi, he wrote an entire thick, big book on this issue. It's called Al-Imam al-Kalam فيما متعلق بقراءات خلف الإمام. Abu al-Hayy al-Laknawi, rahmatullah alayhi, major Hanafi scholar. When he put that book together, he refuted this himself and said this cannot be a dalil for not reciting in Dhuhr and Asr. You could try to use this as a dalil for Fajr, Maghrib and Isha, but then the ayah is am, it's not just for salah, but you could say it is also for salah, so this can be a dalil for those salawat. Now the Shawafi', they reply this by saying that you can recite in the pauses the Imam gives. Because we know the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is when he recited al-Fatiha, he would recite an ayah and stop, and then recite an ayah and stop. He wouldn't rush through it like some of our ai say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Subhanallah. It's not a Micro Machines commercial, it's not a race. You're supposed to recite the Quran calmly. This is the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you connect two ayat, there's nothing wrong with it. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would stop. So here the Shawafi', they said you can recite in that time, or in the pause between the finishing of al-Fatiha and the beginning of the next surah. And that's why many of the Shawafi', they give a long pause here. But there is an objection to this as well, which is we don't find a hadith mentioning reciting al-Fatiha between the ayat or during this pause. So this is an ijtihad. Now, many of the ulama, like Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, as mentioned by Ibn Muflih in al-Furu', he said that this is a very weak argument. Why? Because the hadith that is brought to not recite behind the Imam is the hadith that they said the one who has the Imam, the recitation of the Imam is the recitation for him. But as Ibn Taymiyyah and other scholars have pointed out, that this is a weak hadith. There is weakness in this hadith. Abu al-Izz al-Hanafi, a great Hanafi scholar, in his book called At-Tanbih ala Mushkilat al-Hidayah, he points out the weakness himself. Imam al-Qurtubi, in his tafsir of Surah al-Fatiha, he discusses the weakness in two weak narrators as well. So we find this to be a weak hadith. The other hadith that is put forward is the hadith that whoever recites behind the Imam, his mouth will be filled with fire. But this is an extremely weak hadith. In fact, it's a matruk hadith. And it amazes me that ulama know the weakness of this hadith and still quote it. without telling the people about the weakness of the hadith. In fact, when we look at this hadith, Imam Ibn Tahir, he said this sanad, it contains Ma'mun ibn Ahmad al-Harawi. Mahmud ibn Ahmad al-Harawi, who was a kadhab, he was a liar. He used to narrate fabrications. And other great scholars like Ibn Hibban and al-Dhahabi have said this hadith is matruk or mawdu'. And it is such a weak hadith. Until today, you will sit in a dars and an imam or alim will use it as a proof, knowing the weakness of this hadith. Which brings us to the third opinion. The third opinion is that the one praying by himself, he no doubt recites. And the imam no doubt recites. We've agreed on this. But the one praying behind the imam, he recites in the loud salawat, in the silent salawat, and he listens in the loud salawat. So this third opinion, and this is the opinion of many of the Hanafi scholars, and you will find it in the Shuruh of al-Hidayah, and Abu al-Hayy al-Laknawi and others, they took this opinion, that when the salah is out loud, like Fajr, or Maghrib, or Isha, or Taraweeh, or Jam'ah, then you do not recite, you listen to the imam as the hukm from the Qur'an. But in the salawat, which are silent, like Dhuhr and Asr, here you recite al-Fatiha behind the imam, because there is no listening in these salawat. Or in the raka'at that are silent raka'at, like the third raka'ah of Maghrib, or the last two raka'ah of Isha, when they're silent, you recite. And this is the opinion of many of the Hanafi ulama as well. And this is what we find as the mu'tamid of the Maliki and the Hanbali madhahib. The Hanabila and the Malikiyah, the majority of them took this to be the opinion. And many of even the students of the early Hanafi madhab, like Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani, the student Imam Abu Hanifa, the direct student, who 1/3 of the madhab is from him, he took this opinion as well. Now this is a very strong opinion as well. Why? Because there is the hadith that mentioned that there is no salah for the one who did not recite al-Fatiha. So they say that this is for the individual, the imam, and for the one in silent salah he recites. But the one who listens to al-Fatiha, this is the Fatiha for him. And they take the ayah of Qur'an and they find no contradiction with it as well. And the strongest proof for this, and why Shaykh Albani rahmatullahi alayhi took this opinion, is the hadith from the Muwatta of Imam Malik, where the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, they clearly mentioned that when the salawat were loud, we would listen, and when they were silent, we would recite. Now Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen replied this saying that this is general for qira'ah, not just for al-Fatiha. But Shaykh Albani, he took this to be muhkam hadith, and he made a very important point. This is the only hadith that clearly discusses the difference between loud and silent salawat. The other ahadith are all general about recitation or al-Fatiha being important without distinction between loud and silent. But this hadith makes a distinction between loud and silent salawat. Shaykh Albani and many other ulama, they took this to be the strongest of the opinions. And if you look at this opinion, it does not contradict any of those other dalal. And this is the opinion of many other great ulama, and many hadith are mentioned in this. If you look at the opinion of Ibn Qudama in al-Mughni, he takes this opinion as well. And this is the opinion that Imam Muhammad takes from Abu Hanifa as well. And this is the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i from his earlier madhab as well. Imam Shafi'i has two madhahib in reality. One is the old madhab, and then there is Jadid. One was before he went to Misr, before he left, and one is afterwards. This was his original opinion as well. If we look at some of the other great ulama, like Mullah al-Qari from the Hanafi ulama, from the great Hanafi ulama, Mullah al-Qari, he also took this opinion. Imam al-Zuhri also took this opinion. Imam Malik, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Ahmad bin Hanbal, and many other scholars of hadith, they took this opinion. And this third opinion is the ikhtiyar, the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah as well. Having mentioned these opinions, I will conclude with my own, inshallah, deduction as based on the works of the ulama and Quran and Sunnah, that the strongest opinion, if we look at the dalail by themselves, it seems to be, as Ibn Taymiyyah and others have taken, that you recite in the silent salawat and you listen in the loud salawat. But as Ibn Qudama has said, to show a very safe opinion, that if you are able to recite al-Fatiha behind the Imam, even in the loud salawat, you should do it, because here now, without contradicting the recitation of the Imam, you have put yourself at the safest opinion. So if we look purely at the dalail, the strongest is that in the loud salawat you listen, in the silent salawat you recite. But if you're able to recite behind the Imam, as Imam al-Bukhari and others have taken the opinion, then it is the safest, and you can do that as well, as Ibn Qudama has mentioned in al-Umdah and other books, to say the safest is if you're able to recite behind the Imam in every salat, and now you are outside the realm of khilaf. But if you are not able to, without contradicting the recitation of the Imam, then in the loud salawat you listen, and this is enough for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the sunnah clear to us with the dalail, with the clear proofs and the words of the ulama. Jazakumullahu khairan.
إلا تنصروه فقد نصره الله